There's an amazing new report out by the Sunlight Foundation, which is a government accountability group, and they looked into the state of corruption in American politics, and they found some incredible stuff. Get this, quote, "For every dollar the nation's most politically active company spent on political influence, they received $760 from the government in the form of federal business and support. In total, the year-long study reported that 200 of the country's top campaign donors spent $5.8 billion on political lobbying and campaign contributions between 2007 and 2012 and received a whopping $4.4 trillion in return." Whoa. So whenever you see all the stories that come out on a daily basis of lobbyists from X corporation going to the government and talking to them about whatever, or drafting legislation, or just burrowing up the ass of the politicians, understand there's a really good reason why they're doing that. They're doing that because they invested a total of $5.8 billion, and they got a return of $4.4 trillion. So you want to talk about whores? The politicians at the federal level in America are some of the biggest whores on the planet. They're like, for every dollar you give me to help me win my election and run my campaign, it's I scratch your back, you scratch mine. When I get in office, I'm going to return that plus $759. Here's your dollar back. Here's another $759. This is why our political system is so broken, because we've allowed this legalized system of bribery, and nobody even bats an eyelash at it anymore from the establishment perspective and the elite perspective. Of course, the American people, our hair is on fire over this, and we're like, why don't you fix the root of the problem? But it's nothing to the mainstream media, to the circles in Washington and New York and on Wall Street. This is nothing. This is just business as usual. It's like, yeah, I gave them $1 and they gave me $760 in return. That's how business works. I thought that's how it always worked, right? But that's not how the government is supposed to work. The government is supposed to represent the people. Now, all countries to some extent have corruption, but this is extreme corruption. You don't see this kind of corruption in Denmark or Norway or Iceland or Sweden, which is why those countries have universal health care and universal education and universal daycare and a good social safety net and a better per capita middle-class income, and the list goes on and on. Now, to compare and contrast here, listen to this. They continue, quote, "By contrast, the federal government paid the nation's 50 million Social Security recipients $4.3 trillion during that same period." So we're at a place in American politics now where the amount of money that goes to special tax breaks and corporate welfare checks for these gigantic multinational corporations, that money surpasses the amount of money for the entire Social Security system, which affects 50 million people. Man, we've just totally lost our government. There's no other conclusion from this report. We've totally lost our government. They're now rather openly functioning as a kleptocracy. They're openly an oligarchy. I mean, this is a system rather clearly of by and for the rich. It's a plutocracy. Those three words mean basically the same thing in political science terms. Government of, by, and for the rich, of, by, and for this overclass, this establishment. They run the system, and we're just living in it. Every once in a while, they might throw a bone to us. Here's Medicare. Here's Medicaid. Here's a few anti-poverty programs. Shut up and go away. Meanwhile, where's the real money going at the federal level? It's going to corporate tax breaks. It's going to corporate welfare checks. It's going to Wall Street. $80 billion a year going to each big bank. I mean, you want to talk about ridiculous. They failed in 2008. We rushed in and saved them, and now we're going to continue to give them taxpayer dollars? Well, that just doesn't make any sense. And then also, let's not forget that a big part of this is the military-industrial complex. That 57% of our discretionary spending in the federal budget goes to the military. I mean, over half of the discretionary spending is for the military. And it's not like we're fighting the Soviet Union anymore. They don't exist any longer. That doesn't mean that Russia's a fantastic place and we should, think about it and monitor the situation. No. But it does mean that if you're spending 57% of your discretionary spending on that while Detroit literally has the water turned off, your priorities are kind of fucked up. I mean, we live in a country where the education system is failing. We live in a country where the healthcare system is a joke. I mean, Obamacare fixed some things, but we still don't have a good system in terms of the rest of the modern industrial world. Our infrastructure, I always mention how, according to the Civil Society of Engineers, it gets a grade of D. I mean, we have an infrastructure, supposedly the best country in the world, we have an infrastructure that gets a grade of D. And we're focusing more on giving money to these already rich corporations than fixing that. Why is that? Because of what I just laid out for you. Because the lobbyists and the corporations have totally bought the government, and now every dollar they give to the politicians, they get 760 in return. With numbers like that, I should probably buy a politician or two.